What's up, Jets Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicy Jet Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Rooney, and we are getting closer and closer to the NFL Draft. We are less than 1 month away, but it's a weird time in football right now because you kind of just passed free agency, you're kind of into the private workout type period, and then into the NFL Draft where, there's a lot that is kind of quiet right now. There's really not a lot happening. But it's a great time to be in sports because you got March Madness, you got the NBA playoffs coming up, you got the NHL playoffs coming up, baseball is back. So there's a lot to talk about around other sports, and I might actually start there today. And then what we'll do is we'll go into a little bit of news around the Jets, some of my opinions going into the draft from some things that you hear out there, and then finally, I'm going to give you a couple draft stories. So I've been to, I think, 7 NFL drafts. Not all in a row. It's been spaced out over the past 10-ish, actually 12 years it's been spaced out. So I'll give you a couple stories as we go through each podcast episode leading up to the draft. We'll do my first 2 drafts that I've been to in person tonight. So let's get started. Let's talk about some of the things that are happening out there right now. Let's start with our New York Mets. The Mets are back. Opening day was on Thursday. I went to the game, and it was a great day of baseball. It was like 70 degrees, sunny, yet here I am on Saturday sitting here and it's 30 degrees out and cloudy and it's going to rain all next week. So we got so lucky with the weather for the New York Mets game. And it was weird sitting there because you're looking around and you're like, there's a lot of new players on this team. And you don't realize how many new players there are until you see the actual starting lineup and you're like, who's this number? What is the order? Who's batting fourth? Like, I don't even know. But it was a really fun day. Like if you told me going into that day that Paul Skeens was not going to last past 2 outs in the first, I would have been absolutely shocked, and that's what happened. The funny thing was, in the first inning, obviously the Mets give up 2 runs right off the bat. Those 2 runs were weird because it was a home run that looked like a pop fly. I'm watching this ball. I'm like, all right, that's a can of corn right to Carson Bench in left field. And then I'm like, wait a minute. And then it goes out. And I was sitting in the Coke corner, so it was hard to see when it goes over the wall. So I just assumed it was a pop fly. But it goes out, and we're like, oh, great. Here we go again. New Mets season. We just traded for this big pitcher in Freddie Peralta, and then it's a home run right off the bat. But luckily, the Mets get out there, and we are just saved by Paul Skeens, by their center fielder. It was just a very weird set of circumstances where Bo Bichette gets his first RBI with it was like a pop fly foul ball, but it got Lindor home, which was great. There were a couple walks in the inning by Skeens. But the craziest part was, I think it was bases loaded with Brett Beatty. So Garrett Wilson's best friend, Brett Beatty, up to bat. And for some reason, he hits a hard line drive over the center fielder's head. And the reason why it went over his head is because he stepped up first. And I am not a baseball player. I have not played a actual sport in probably 10 years, besides golf. And even I know you don't step forward first, and that's what he did. And the ball goes right over his head, 3-run score. And the Mets take a massive lead. And then, I forgot if it was Polanco. It might have been Polanco. Was up for his first at-bat as a Met. He hits a pop fly to the center fielder. The sun gets in his eyes because he doesn't want to wear sunglasses. And he misses the pop fly, and the inning continues. And then that's when they pulled Paul Skeens. So that was absolutely crazy. I love the Bench home run later in the game. That was fun. Alvarez hit a bomb as well. So it was just a really fun day watching baseball, hanging out with my family, hanging out with some friends. So it was a really great day. So that's our New York Mets. They're on again right now. It's I should have went to the game today, but it was 30 degrees out, so I didn't feel like it. I think last I checked, it was 0-0 in the fourth. I'm leaning backward right now. It looks like the Pirates have some people on base, so we'll see if anything happens there. But it's good to have baseball back. It's a nice thing to come home from work, just pop it on the TV, and be able to kind of watch it in the background, pay attention when you need to pay attention, all that kind of stuff. So that's been great. Hockey. Hockey's going to come down to the very wire. The New York Islanders have been a good team all year, obviously with Matthew Schaefer being a phenom at 18 years old, which is absolutely incredible. But they kind of drive me nuts because they give up goals really quickly in a game. They're down 2-0, 3-0 right off the bat. And then they claw back and either win the game or they come close. If you go to overtime against them, they're going to beat you. I don't think they've lost a game in overtime so far this year. So they're a very up and down, confusing team to watch. But I think if they get in the playoffs, they would be great to watch because they seem to play really well against the good teams and bad against the bad teams. Like the other night I was watching and they were playing the Blackhawks. Blackhawks are one of the worst teams in the league. And they get obliterated. It was like 2 bad turnovers and then the game's over. I'm like, what the heck just happened? But then you watch them play the Dallas Stars and they win. And they kind of dominate. I'm like, what the heck is happening here? So they're a frustrating team to watch, but it's going to be back and forth, up and down the standings. You're in the playoffs, out of the playoffs over the next 2-ish weeks while the season winds down. So hopefully the Islanders make the playoffs, but they had a good win today against the Florida Panthers, so we'll see how it goes. The Knicks are the Knicks. It seems like they've had kind of a cupcake schedule over the past couple weeks, but you'll take that. I'll take the wins over these bad teams. So we'll see as they start to play some tougher teams and get towards the playoffs, but it sounds like they're going to be a lock, which is good to see. And then March Madness has been fun. I would say I'm a little sad that St. John's lost last night. They were probably the team I was rooting for the most, but I'm not super invested into college basketball. I went to Northeastern University. They're not a good basketball school. They're more of a hockey school. So I'm more invested in my bracket, which is fun and normally doesn't go very well, but it's fun to watch. That's what I'll be doing tonight. That's what I'll be doing tomorrow. Because it comes around once a year, so you got to cherish it. So it's a great time to be a sports fan. I think that's the moral of this story here is it is really fun to be watching sports. All right, now on to my favorite sport and the sport that brings me the most disappointment, but keeps me engaged all year round, and that is our New York Jets. So there's not a lot of news. This is like that time of year where like agents are feeding information to like an Adam Schefter, people like that. And it could be things just to like blow some smoke, see if people will jump on a player that team actually didn't want, or the opposite. So there's a lot of gamesmanship going on right now. So you can't really trust everything that's out there. If you were a football fan, remember what you thought about some of these players 2 months ago. Back when it was before the combine, right as the season ended, you kind of knew who was playing well, who wasn't, who were the really good players in this draft, who aren't. Now, of course, people's stocks are going to rise. You're going to see they're going to run faster in the 40 or whatever, or their 3-cone is going to be awesome. But I would say, just don't get fooled by, what people are saying out there. Actually go, watch what these guys have done throughout the year, and I think you'll be happy with some of the players that you originally liked. Don't let some of this stuff change your mind too wildly. But I think the big thing that's come out over the past couple weeks is the Jets have been on a road show. It's been Muji and Glenn hopping from pro day to pro day all across America. They were in Miami with Carson Beck and Ruben Bain and Akeem Messidor. They were at Ohio State with Ryan Day, obviously, probably checking out some of the younger guys because there's going to be some good guys in next year's draft. And then, of course, you've got Arvell Reese. You've got you got Sonny Styles. You've got some really great players there. Now Ty Simpson is coming to visit the Jets, and I think he did. I think they went to Alabama or he visited the Jets. I'm not exactly clear on which was which, but either way, he had a performance in front of them. So it's been a whirlwind for the Jets. They've been all over the place, just trying to check out as many prospects as humanly possible, which they should be doing. And I think the fact that Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji are going as a united front shows how much they're collaborating, and I think that's a good sign. That's all I really wanted is two guys who are going to work really well together and make the right decisions. And obviously last year was a disaster, but it seems like this magical plan that they keep talking about, it seemed like there actually kind of was a plan going into free agency, but now we still have some major holes to fill. So let's talk about Ty Simpson a little bit. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza is going number 1 overall to the Raiders, so we don't really have to worry about him. There's really only one other quarterback that I think you'd even consider in the first 2 rounds, which would be Ty Simpson. And then otherwise, you got guys like Garrett Nussmeier, Carson Beck, Drew Aller, people like that. Aller fits the profile of probably what the Jets are looking for in terms of what Frank Reich likes, where he's the taller, bigger, more athletic type of a player. But he had a horrible season and he got hurt. It was just a disaster. Then you got Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, who are a little bit smaller. But they've shown that they can be really good quarterbacks. Nussmeier was probably the number 1 quarterback besides Arch Manning going into this year. And then same thing with Ty Simpson. You saw in the first probably 6 games of the year, he played great. And then all of a sudden he got hurt. His receivers never caught a ball. His offensive line was horrible. They couldn't run the ball either. So Alabama just slowly fell off the map, and Ty Simpson's stock was hurt because of it. So, from my perspective, this is where I'm at right now. And I posted this in a couple places, so sorry if this is repetitive for those of you that have seen it before. But I think there's only there's 3 scenarios that you run through. If let's say you draft Ty Simpson. Geno Smith plays great. He's got an awesome year. Ty Simpson never sees the field. Well, guess what? Based on your evaluation in practice, or I guess, lack of evaluation. Maybe he just like wasn't good at all and we can never tempt him to play. You take a quarterback next year, or you decide not to. Like, that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You could take another swing next year if he doesn't see the field. There's no reason to say, well, we've got this unknown guy in Ty Simpson. Why put all your eggs in that basket? You could take a quarterback next year too. Second option, Geno Smith plays horrible, and Ty Simpson has to play, and he plays well. Great. Then we know who our quarterback of the future is, and then we can use 3 first-round picks on the 3 best players in the draft next year because we're locked and loaded in what's going to be, hopefully, potentially, a talent-heavy draft. Third option, Geno Smith plays horrible, Ty Simpson has to play, and Ty Simpson's horrible. Guess what? That means we probably have the worst record in football. We have a number 1, number 2 overall pick, and we draft another quarterback. Maybe you get Arch Manning. Probably not. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. There's no world where I envision a Manning playing for the New York Jets. So let's just get that out of our heads now. I think the Cardinals are going to be worse than the Jets. I think the Dolphins are going to be worse than the Jets, and they need quarterbacks. I don't think Malik Willis is going to stop them from taking an Arch Manning if he's there. And then even so, they wouldn't trade with us. So I think that's the other scenario. So I think no matter what, I don't like the idea of saying, let's not take a quarterback this year because we could just do it next year. Look at what happened this year. We thought we were going to have all these great quarterbacks in this draft, and they all fell off the face of the map. And then Fernando Mendoza came out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere. Like, people thought he was going to be good, but no one thought he was going to be the number 1 overall pick. So I don't know. I think it's too risky to say, well, let's just wait till next year. No, do both. Draft one this year, draft one next year. If you walk out of the first round with Orville Reese, then you take one of the wide receivers at 16, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, whatever, Carnell Tate, probably not Tate. I don't think he's going to be there, but, Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson, and then we trade back up into the first round, and then you take Ty Simpson. So you're telling me we're covering our bases at defensive end, we're covering our bases at wide receiver, and now we have a developmental quarterback that we can bring in to learn under Geno. I'm happy with that draft. And then you still have pick 44. You still have pick, depending on which one you trade, whether it's 33, 44, whatever, you still have someone else in the second round you could take. You can just redo this entire roster in one draft. And I think you'd feel a lot better as a Jets fan knowing, okay, we got a quarterback waiting in the wings for us. And then it's just a matter of, is he good or not? And I think finally having someone that can sit behind someone like a Geno is not something we've done in the past. We threw Zach Wilson into the fire. We threw Sam Darnold into the fire. Even Geno Smith was thrown into the fire because Mark Sanchez got hurt. So none of these guys have ever gotten a chance to learn, and I think this is a chance to do that. So no matter what you think about Ty Simpson, and maybe the answer is not Ty Simpson. Maybe there's another quarterback they like better. Even though I hate Carson Beck, I am not a huge Carson Beck guy. I just don't really love his attitude, and he's not a fun guy for me to root for. If they feel he's the right guy, then let's just take him. Let's take him in the third round, take him in the fourth round, if we can get into the third round somehow. And then we have someone that we can count on. And it's not Brady Cook, who's an undrafted free agent. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But that was the big news this week. And I'm interested to see how the more stories that come out over the next couple of weeks. And like I said, you just got to be careful. Got to be careful. All right. We are about 13 minutes in. Let me give you 2 stories here about the NFL draft. So I'm really excited. I got my tickets to the theater for the first round of the draft. I pretty much always sit in the theater if I can. I will pay extra money. I will try to win contests, whatever it takes to get into the theater because it is such a cool experience. The intensity in the room because no one's really checking their phones and tipping picks, even though I know my friends back home will know who the Jets pick before I do because they're looking at Twitter or whatever. It's really exciting in the room to guess who the team's going to take and get excited and all that stuff. Especially when other teams are up. It's really fun thinking about, okay, who are the Ravens going to pick at 14 or whatever number they are, which will then impact the Jets pick at 16. So it's a really cool experience. Now, I never thought I was going to be a big draft guy. I never thought I was going to be going to drafts as much as I do. But back in 2014, I decided, I was like, you know what? I love this team. I'm really getting into the team building aspect of it because we just came off those 2 AFC championship games earlier and the team wasn't doing that great. So I wanted to get into the mix, learn a lot more about scouting, drafting, all that kind of stuff. So in 2014, I was still in college, convinced my dad to go with me to the NFL draft at Radio City Music Hall. It was actually the last draft in New York City. So I end up, the way you got tickets to that, there's no inner circle like there was today, where there's 150,000 people at these, 300,000 people at these events. There were 3,000 tickets inside of this little theater in Radio City Music Hall. So in order to go there, you had to go the day before and get this wristband. So I was like, Dad, we're going in early and we're waiting in line. I'm going to be the first one in line. I was the first one in line. We got there super early in the morning, but it turns out you can't wait online till noon. So we just like bounced around and waited till the line started. You wait in line. You wait literally all day. You get your wristband. My dad, I didn't know how long he was going to last, but he stood there with me the whole day. So it was very impressive. And we got our wristbands. And the next day you come back and then you get your tickets, and your tickets will tell you where you're sitting. It's all random. And we ended up meeting this guy online, and you're like sitting in pens there. It's like the weirdest setup. It was so old school. I'm like, why are we standing in a pen outside all day waiting for tickets? But we're standing with this guy. He was a Los Angeles Rams fan, even though the Rams were still in St. Louis at the time. So I think about him a lot. I'm like, I wonder if that guy's like pumped right now that the Rams are back and they won a Super Bowl in LA and all that good stuff. But we walk up to the front with our wristbands and everything, and we're like, 2 tickets for us. He's like, wait, can I sit with you guys? And we're like, okay, 3. And then my dad goes, come on, we're Jets fans. Like, give us something good. Give us a good seat. And they're all random. They're in envelopes. These guys have no idea. So we open them up. We're in the second row in Radio City Music Hall, which is awesome. So we're sitting right up front. Deion Sanders is doing the, he's doing some of the analysis. You can see Roger Goodell right on the left of the stage. So it was like Nick Saban walked right by me and I tried to say something to him. He didn't say a word. So I was a little upset with Nick Saban, but it was great. And it's all diehard football fans around you. Everybody knows a lot about the draft. Everybody knows a lot about their teams. So it's like it's one of the best places I just loved it. I loved it. And then of course the Jets have one of their most historic drafts they've ever had. This was the Idzik, 12? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It was the Idzik 12. So I went for the first day. Obviously, we draft Calvin Pryor at number 18. Horrible pick. Louisville Slugger. I was excited about it. He was kind of good for like his first year and a half and then just like disappeared and then really never played again. I think we traded him to the Browns to actually get Demario Davis back, I think, which is hilarious. In this draft, the second day, my dad didn't come with me the second 2 days. It was much easier to get tickets for those next 2 days. I was pumped because Chad Pennington made the pick, and it was Jason Morrow, the tight end from Texas Tech. He ended up being horrible. And then you got guys like, one really famous guy that it's coming full circle now. IK and Impali was drafted then, the guy who punched Geno Smith in the face, which broke his jaw, and then obviously had Ryan Fitzpatrick start. So that was an interesting one. Quincy Enunwa was a part of that draft. He was probably the only good player we got in that entire draft. People like Dex McDougal, Jalen Saunders, Shaq Evans, Jeremiah George, Dakota Dozier, Brandon Dixon, Taj Boyd, Trevor Riley. What a horrible, horrible draft. Just so bad. And we didn't trade at all, which was wild to have that many picks and not trade any of them. So it was, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. But really fun event. I stayed the entire time. I was like writing down every pick in this little notebook. They gave you a little earpiece to listen to NFL Network or ESPN, depending on which one you wanted to listen to while you're sitting there. So it was really cool. And Michael Sam got drafted in that one, the first openly gay player to be drafted. So that was a pretty interesting moment. So it was a wild time. And then I fell in love. I was like, I got to keep coming to more drafts. And then, of course, I was in college. I didn't have a lot of money, all that kind of stuff. So the next draft I didn't go to was 2017. 2017 was the draft in Philadelphia. And for me, I didn't get theater tickets. This was the first time they did like an outdoor, they did Chicago, but it was the first one I went to where they did like an outdoor setup with an outdoor theater. So I didn't know how to get into the theater at that point. I was just a stupid kid that had no idea what I was doing. And I was with one of my best friends who was coming off a torn ACL, and he lived in Philly. So he ended up being with me the whole day. And the first day, we're literally standing out there in a mass of 150,000 people watching the Jets and the Giants. He's a Giants fan, watching the Giants and Jets draft. And that was the draft the Jets took Jamal Adams. So that was a pretty good first-round pick that we had. But the poor guy, I don't know how he did it just standing out there on a torn ACL. He was struggling. So I didn't end up going the next couple of days of the draft. But that was a really fun one. Just because it's very memorable, the fact that we got Jamal, the fact that I was standing there with Eagles fans who got pissed at their draft pick. But then the draft pick was Derek Barnett, who ended up being the hero in the Super Bowl that caused a fumble on, I think it was Tom Brady, and icing the game for them. So it's kind of funny, like looking back on some of those moments. But I will forever go to the draft. I will do everything in my power to go. So this year it's in Pittsburgh. I will tell you stories about some of the other drafts I went to as well in the coming weeks. But this year's in Pittsburgh, so excited to go to Pittsburgh. Looks like they have a pretty good setup right by the stadium on the water, which will be really fun. And then next year is in Washington, D.C., which well, that's going to be really interesting. Donald Trump just might have us on the White House lawn doing that one. I'm not sure. I know they're doing UFC there, so maybe the draft is next. And then it sounds like maybe Minnesota the year after. Not a huge fan of these cold weather cities doing the draft because it's all outdoors. There's no, like, the theater is an open air theater. It's not like a closed in place. So it's freezing when you're out there. Kansas City was cold. Philly, I think Philly was okay from what I remember. Where else did I go? Lambeau was cold. Detroit was, it was pretty cold actually too. I'm trying to think. I was like, was it? Vegas was great. Vegas was a really good one. That was a fun one. We'll talk a little bit about that, but then AT&T was indoors. So we'll talk about those later, but those are some of my draft memories. Just wanted to share because I know not everyone gets a chance to go to the draft, and I'll tell you a lot more as I'll post a lot of pictures and videos and stuff when I actually go, which is one of the last weeks in April. So it's a wild experience. If you're lucky enough to get a ticket, I would 100% do it. But all right, everybody, that's it. That's all I got for today. I appreciate everybody listening. Obviously, you can follow me across all social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter at JuicyJet25. If you could please follow, like, rate, subscribe, review. And I would be very grateful. So thank you all for listening. More content to come this week, and I will talk to you all later. See ya.